What would you do if the place you loved most was torn apart by greed? For me, it was Lake Serenity, a shimmering haven where my family's memories were etched into every ripple and reed. My name is Clara Evans, and this is the story of how I fought back against the Karen Hills Homeowners Association and how it cost me everything. The lake was my sanctuary, a 50-acre gem nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York. My grandfather built the small wooden bridge over its narrowest point in the 1950s, a rickety but charming span where I'd spent countless summers fishing with my brother, Ethan. After our parents passed, the lake and its surrounding land became ours, a bittersweet inheritance. Ethan moved to the city, chasing a tech job, but I stayed. I built a modest cabin on the shore, living simply, tending to the land, and preserving the lake's quiet beauty. The bridge, weathered but sturdy, was my connection to those memories, a lifeline to the past. The trouble began when Karen Hills, a luxury resort developer, bought the adjacent land. Their glossy brochures promised an $8 million paradise. Condos, a golf course, a private marina. The catch? Their vision required access to my lake. They needed to widen the bridge to accommodate construction vehicles and future guests. I refused their initial offer to buy my land. The lake wasn't just property. It was my heart. But the HOA, led by a sharp-tongued woman named Margaret Voss, didn't take kindly to no. Margaret was the quintessential Karen, polished, entitled, and relentless. Her platinum bob gleamed as she stood on my porch one crisp autumn morning, flanked by two suited men. "Clara, be reasonable," she said, her smile as cold as the November wind. "We'll pay you handsomely. This lake could be the crown jewel of our resort." I shook my head, clutching the deed to my land. "It's not for sale, Margaret. Not now, not ever." Her eyes narrowed, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Days later, I woke to the roar of bulldozers. I ran to the bridge, my heart pounding, only to find it reduced to splinters. The HOA had trespassed, demolished my grandfather's bridge, and begun grading my land for their access road. I called the sheriff, but Margaret's lawyers were faster. They claimed eminent domain, citing some obscure county ordinance. My protests were drowned out by their deep pockets and deeper influence. I was furious, but more than that, I was heartbroken. The bridge was gone, and with it a piece of my soul. That's when I met Javier Ruiz, a local environmentalist who'd been tracking Karen Hill's shady permits. He showed up at my cabin one evening, his dark eyes blazing with indignation. "They've been bribing officials to fast-track their project," he said, spreading documents across my kitchen table. "And they're dumping construction runoff into your lake. It's killing the ecosystem." Javier was an unexpected ally, a wiry man with a passion for justice that matched my own. Together, we pored over maps and legal filings, searching for a way to stop them. The twist came when Javier revealed a secret. My land included an old dam, built decades ago to regulate the lake's water levels. It was hidden in a forested corner, forgotten by everyone except my grandfather's journals, which I'd kept in a dusty trunk. The dam controlled the lake's flow into a downstream river. If I opened it, the lake would drain, leaving the HOA's marina plans high and dry. It was a drastic move, one that would destroy the lake I loved. But as Javier pointed out, sometimes you have to sacrifice what you love to save it from worse. I hesitated. The lake was my refuge, my connection to my family. Draining it felt like betraying my grandfather's legacy. But every time I saw Margaret's smug face at county meetings, or watched their cranes loom over my shore, my resolve hardened. Javier and I spent weeks planning in secret. He rallied local activists to document the HOA's environmental violations, while I studied the dam's mechanics. It was a rusty manual system, but it still worked. One turn of the valve, and the lake would empty in days. The night we acted was moonless, the air thick with tension. Javier kept watch while I crept to the dam, my hands trembling as I gripped the valve wheel. I thought of Ethan, who'd urged me to sell and move on. I thought of my grandfather, his calloused hands building that bridge. I thought of Margaret, her voice dripping with condescension. With a wrenching twist, I opened the valve. Water roared through the sluice, a torrent that echoed my rage. By morning, the lake was shrinking. I stood on the shore, watching the waterline recede, exposing muddy banks and stranded fish. My heart ached, but I held firm. The HOA's marina site became a swamp, their condos surrounded by stinking mire. Margaret was apoplectic, storming to my cabin with a lawyer in tow. "You've ruined us," she shrieked. "That lake was our centerpiece." I met her gaze, unflinching. "You bulldozed my bridge," I said. "I drained your dream." The fallout was swift. The HOA sued, but Javier's evidence of their illegal permits and pollution turned the tide. The county revoked their development rights, and their investors pulled out, leaving the resort a half-built ruin. Social media buzzed with the story posts on X called it the ultimate Karen takedown. For a moment I felt victorious, but victory came at a price. The lake never recovered. Draining it disrupted the ecosystem beyond repair. The fish died, the birds left, and the once lush shores turned barren. I'd saved my land from the HOA, but I'd lost the lake that defined it. Ethan visited a month later, his face etched with sorrow as he surveyed the empty basin. "Was it worth it, Clara?" he asked. I couldn't answer. The silence between us was heavier than the water I'd let go. Then came the final blow. Javier, my ally, had been hiding his own agenda. He confessed one evening, his voice low with guilt. He'd used our fight to boost his nonprofit's profile, leaking our plans to the press for clout. The viral attention had funded his organization, but it painted me as a vengeful eco-warrior, not a grieving granddaughter. I felt betrayed, used. Javier left town soon after, his apologies ringing hollow. I stayed at the cabin, alone with the ghost of the lake. The HOA's resort was abandoned, its skeletal frames rusting against the skyline. I'd won the battle, but the war had cost me everything: the lake, my brother's trust, my peace. I walk the dry lake bed now, tracing the path where the bridge once stood. I wonder if I fought for the right thing, or if I simply became the mirror of Margaret's ruthlessness. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the lake's whispers in the wind, calling me back to a time when the water was alive, and so was I. But there's no going back. I opened the dam, and with it, I drained my heart. ND.